Thank you to Principal Conlon for hosting us here at Top of the World, and welcome. And he's also been gracious enough to let us have the next two copyrights here, since we're trying to find out what our next venue is going to be from our permanent location. So October and November will be here as well. And for those of you I haven't had the pleasure of meeting yet, I'm Cheryl Kohlberg, and I'm taking over for Cindy Raymond Jacobs, so big shoes to fill. Did a great job with Coffee Break. So, and I wanted to say thank you to Bread Artisan Bakery for the pastries. They're really yummy. If you haven't had one, take one on your way out, because I'm sure we'll have some left over. And I couldn't do this on my own, so I wanted to give a shout out to my committee, which is awesome. They've worked so hard to bring some good speakers to the school district this year. So if you could just stand up briefly while I mention your name. We have Lynn Beers and Lisa Ansel Black in the back doing the registration. Catherine Fran Richardson. Where's Catherine? She's going to be doing our video today, and she gets the flyers out to everyone and the banners. Pamela London Frank. I don't think, oh, there's Pamela. She helps with a whole bunch of different things. We have Suzette Cruz. Our speakers. Melissa Vermilia. There's Melissa helping out with that group. We have, let's see, Alice Nathanson is doing our press. Stacy Johnson. I don't know if Stacy's here today. Stacy's helping out with something. And then Carrie Reynolds, Jan Schreiber, Monique Montessari, and Ketta Brown, who couldn't be here today. So thank you to all of you so much. I appreciate it. I did want to mention that you should turn off your cell phones now if you haven't had a chance to do so that we don't have some interruptions during the speakers. And I want to say thank you for our school board members, Jan Vickers, Teresa O'Hare, and Betsy Jenkins for coming today. And I also wanted to say, if you're new to the district, is there any parents that are new this year to the district? Raise your hand. So I want to say welcome. Make sure you come up and introduce yourself afterwards. I'd love to meet you. And if anyone's sitting next to someone who's new, please introduce yourself to them as well, so we can welcome them here to Laguna. And I think that's about it. We are in for a good presentation today. We're going to hear from our leaders about the Common Core, the technology in the classroom, facilities updates, and new staff. So I'm going to turn it over to Shireen Smith, our superintendent, to do the introductions. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here. I would like to thank Cheryl. She is a joy to work with. She's super organized, coordinated. It's been so simple for me just to work with her, and here we are this morning. I appreciate all of you being here. And a shout out to, as Cheryl said, our board members, Betsy Jenkins, Teresa O'Hare. We may have one or two show up a little bit later in the morning, but again, thank you. And I would like to introduce our administrative team, and I'll start to my right, the principal of Elmore Elementary School, Chris Debbie. We have Irene White, who is our Director of Special Education and Student Services. Mike Conlon, Principal, Top of the World, not on my own, Top of the World. Jamie Sahlberg, Principal, Thurston Middle School. Darlene Messinger, our Assistant Superintendent of Instructional Services. We have our fabulous Chief Technology Officer, Mike Morrison, or as I call him, M&M. And to my left, we have our Chief Business Official, our Assistant Superintendent of Business, Dean West. The Interim Principal of Laguna Beach High School, Carolyn Williams. Our Director of Human Resources and Public Communications, Lisa Winston. And we have our new Coordinator of Assessment, Amy Kernan, who's going to discuss with us. Okay, I will begin with a little overview of the kinds of conditions that are facing our students as we move into the 21st century. What I have done is kind of encompasses all of the things that we hope to achieve for our students in our educational system. We want our students to leave Laguna Beach schools or graduate from Laguna Beach High School with the skills and background and experience they need to be successful in their life and careers in college and just to be a fulfilled human being. And so what I'm going to share with you is information from a renowned researcher and author. His name is Gary Marks. And he analyzes trends. Every few years he analyzes the trends and predicts how those trends will impact us. His most recent book from 2014 is called 21 Trends for the 21st Century, very catchy. But they're very compelling and they build on work that he has done in the past. And so I have entitled the presentation, Ready or Not, Learning for the 21st Century. The world is changing, as we know. It's changing very rapidly and it's changing in very profound ways that will impact us and our children for generations to come. Life is fast and complicated. It gets faster and it gets more complicated. I know when I was a child, we had lots of time just to go out and play unsupervised. And I grew up in a rural area, so we would go down to the creek, unsupervised, and we would go ride horses unsupervised, and we would go hike out in the mountains and build forts and everything unsupervised. And we didn't have soccer, and we didn't have our time scheduled, and our playtime wasn't a play date. Life is much more, I think, organized, scheduled, and intense for children. The expectations are so high and our hopes are so powerful that we don't want to miss anything to make sure our children get the very best. What does the future hold for us? The future keeps changing daily. We have predictions and then they play out or they don't play out, but the change seems to be accelerating and the future is unpredictable. And the imperative for us is preparing our students for the road ahead. And how do we do that? How do we prepare our students for the road ahead? And this book, as I mentioned, describes the 21 trends in the 21st century, and these are the trends that we want to prepare our students for. Again, so when they go out in life, they're ready and they're prepared. As I noted, it's written by author and futurist Gary Marks, and it describes the major trends that will affect our future. Starting with number 1, generations. Millennials will insist on solutions to accumulated problems and injustices that will profoundly impact leadership and lifestyles. And you can see some of that playing out now on the political stage and how the political parties are reacting, or the high, I guess, number of people who are starting to be unaffiliated with a political party. Diversity in a series of tipping points. Majorities will become minorities, creating ongoing challenges for social cohesion. And that has happened in California already. We are just over, Latino population is just over 50% in California. Worldwide, growing numbers of people and nations will discover that if we manage our diversity well, it will enrich us. If we don't manage our diversity well, it will divide us. And I think in California especially, we are very good at taking advantage of our diversity. It really is something powerful that makes us, it gives us advantages that other countries in the world don't have. The third trend is aging. In developed nations, United States, the old will generally outnumber the young. And in developing nations, the young will generally outnumber the old. And this will create some interesting social tensions. You may notice when you are around in Laguna Beach has a fairly old population. It skews older. We only have 3,000 or so students in this district and another probably a couple hundred that go to private school in a community of 30,000. And as in the United States, as the society gets older and the younger people have to help us, take care of us, Social Security, etc., it becomes a burden rests more and more upon the young people. In the area of technology, it's ubiquitous, interactive. Technologies will shape and do shape how we live, how we learn, how we see ourselves, and how we relate to the world. And you can see here in our schools that it is impacting how we learn. And we want to be proactive and really engage our students in learning by taking advantage of the technological tools. Identity and privacy, as we all know, this is a hot topic. Identity and privacy issues will lead to an array of new and often urgent concerns and a demand that they be resolved. Privacy, you have seen people's credit card numbers get stolen, identities get stolen. There's a concern about hacking, political hacking, other countries hacking. And for us, it's imperative that we keep our student information safe. And so we are always monitoring that to make sure that we ensure our students are safe and their privacy is safe. In the economy, an economy for a new era will demand restoration and reinvention of physical, social, technological, educational, and policy infrastructure. My own take on the very interesting times that we are in is we are going through a social shift, and indeed these things are playing out dramatically in our society and across the world. Number 7, jobs and career pressure will grow for society to prepare people for jobs and careers that may not currently exist. That's our reality. That's what we in the education field know that we need to do, prepare our students for jobs that don't currently exist. There are jobs that didn't exist 20 years ago. Chief technology officer, when I was in education, in a school district, I was a principal. We didn't have a chief technology officer 20 years ago. There was a tech person. But, we were on Apple IIe's and that sort of thing. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. Bioengineering, I can't remember what it is, so I'll move on. Energy, the need to develop new sources of affordable and accessible energy will lead to intensified scientific invention and political tension. Again, we see that oil is driving a lot of political tension in our world and has for a long, long time. And we are desperate for alternatives. They haven't necessarily become economically viable yet. That would be a big crucial issue. Environmental and planetary security, common opportunities and threats will intensify a worldwide demand for planetary security. And again, you can see that playing out today. Sustainability will depend on adaptability and resilience in a fast-changing world. International and global international learning, including relationships, cultural understanding, languages, and diplomatic skills will become basic. And the sub-trend to earn respect in an interdependent world, nations will be expected to demonstrate their reliability and tolerance. Personalization in a world of diverse talents and aspirations, we will increasingly discover and accept that one size does not fit all, and that's a good thing. It enriches us, it makes us stronger. Ingenuity, releasing ingenuity and stimulating creativity will become primary responsibilities of education and society. And indeed, those are things that we are looking at very closely right now and focusing upon. Depth, breadth, and purposes of education. The breadth, depth, and purposes of education will be constantly clarified to meet the needs of a fast-changing world. So it won't be static. When we started the public education system a couple of hundred years ago, it was really very basic. And it didn't change much for many, many years, up through the 50s, 60s. It was a very static, stable kind of education system. In the 70s, we saw some experimentation. In the 80s, we went back to a very rigid, standards-based, basics kind of education. And that was fine, but it's really not going to help us be successful in the future. It's not enough for our students. We really have to build more skills in them, including the collaboration, creativity, communication, and critical thinking skills that they need in their personal lives, their careers, and in college. Polarization, and narrowness will of necessity bend toward reasoned discussion, evidence, and consideration of varying points of view. This is what Gary Marks says. I hope that's true. I'm not convinced. I think in order for society, the world to survive, that's true. And that's why he says of necessity, but I don't really see that happening in the world. I don't know. I'm hopeful, I'm an optimist, but I think we all really need to work together in the world in order to achieve that. Authority, a spotlight will fall on how people gain authority and use it. Ethics, scientific discoveries, and societal realities will force widespread ethical choices, and we see that in end-of-life choices. I know 2 years ago, my mom, she was in critical, intensive care, and we had to make some decisions about when you take away the support systems, and that has been, medical the medical field has become so advanced that they can do amazing things, but then some harder choices rest on us when it becomes apparent that there's a quality of life issue. So you weigh the length of life and quality of life. And there will also, of course, be bioengineering and that sort of thing, cloning. There will be all kinds of things that will force us to make ethical choices. Continuous improvement, the status quo will yield to continuous improvement and reasoned progress. We can't stay in one place. If you stay in one place, basically you die, right? Either change or die. So we will continue to move forward. And hopefully, I agree, with reasoned progress. And I think it's incumbent on all of us as adults. You know, we get impassioned about things and emotional about things. Let's take a step back. Let's look at the facts. Let's find out the facts. Let's measure the facts. And then let's use that information to make reasoned and reasonable decisions or judgments. Poverty. Understanding will grow that sustained poverty is expensive, debilitating, and unsettling. If you are reading the newspaper headlines, you will see just recently there was an article in the newspaper about the importance of prenatal care for your child. It affects their entire life. It affects their brain development. It affects their behavior. It's not just, we used to say, 0 to 3 is so critical, and it is. It's very critical for learning, and it sets a foundation for how children will do throughout their life. But also the stress the mother experiences in her life when she's carrying her baby, and the nutrition and the health care. All of those things affect our society because they affect our children. And we in the education field, so we build on whatever the child has. We compensate in some cases, but it's really, really critical for our mothers to be healthy and be in, not as stressful environments, to have sound families, to have good medical care, and to have good schools. That's important for all of us, for our society. Scarcity versus abundance. Scarcity will help us rethink our view of abundance. And perhaps, I know some people are really thoughtful about what I want versus what I need. I try to be thoughtful about that. It's like, do I want this or do I need this? Mostly I want things, I don't really need things. So, I think we are consumers in the United States, and we have been, it's been easy for us to be consumers, and we'll have to just think a little more carefully about it as our resources become less abundant. Personal meaning and work-life balance. More of us will seek personal meaning in our lives in response to an intense, high-tech, always-on, fast-moving society. So those are the 21 trends that are predicted right now to affect our future in the 21st century. And those are the trends that we want to prepare our students for as they go forward in life. Next slide. And so what you will hear a lot about this year, next year, and you heard about it last year, are the 4 C's, which are collaboration. Actually, let me start with creativity. How many slides? Creativity, innovation, collaboration, working with others to complete a task or a project, critical thinking. People are going to have to, students ourselves, think very critically and deeply about issues so they can make informed decisions or reason out what they should be doing or making judgments or having opinions. And collaboration, working together to achieve a goal. Did I leave one out? Communication. Communication was the one where all the people were working together. So the 4 C's. Creativity, critical thinking, communication, collaboration. Those are the 4. So we build on those along with our California state standards in order to ensure that we can produce students who are ready for college and careers. That concludes my presentation, and I will now hand it over to Lisa, who will talk a little bit about our personnel changes this year.
So I'm just going to stand right here. But I wanted to, as you mentioned, I'm the Director of Human Resources and Public Communications, so I oversee the hiring processes in the district, and I support our employees who work with your children. So I'll just review some of the new staff members. We had a very busy summer, hiring many new staff over the summer. It's been a busy year. I think we hired over 40 new staff total. Over the last year, when you have around 300 employees, that's quite significant. So over the summer, I'll just go by site. So El Moro, welcomed a new custodian, Jesus Arambula, and he was a substitute for us, so he's done a really, really good job. He's very professional, and we're glad to have him join our team at El Moro. At Top of the World, we hired Jennifer Carlson as a kindergarten teacher. And those of you from El Moro may remember Jennifer Carlson was an instructional aide at El Moro before she moved to kindergarten at Top of the World. So we're really excited. She has teaching experience from around Orange County, LA County in the past, so we're glad to have her on board as well. Thurston had a very busy summer. We hired a lot of staff at Thurston. Alyssa Casario is our new 7th grade math teacher. Jeff Dipple is our new Spanish teacher, and Megan Mathias is our new social studies teacher. I think she teaches 6th and 8th grade. Correct. Okay, thank you. We also welcome Brad Rush as our new school psychologist, and campus supervisor Amy McNeely also joined the team at Thurston this year, and she's additional support. That is a new position that we added to help increase the supervision on the campus during breaks and lunch. At Laguna Beach High School, several other very important staff members. Jenny Hoffman joined the counseling team, so she's our new counselor. Steve Flores was hired to teach chemistry and physics, and as you can imagine, it's challenging to find a teacher who can teach, who's credentialed in both chemistry and physics. We found him. Not only is he credentialed, he's a very good teacher, so we're excited to have him on board. And Carita Garcia is our new Spanish teacher, and I believe she's teaching AP and Honors Spanish, and she is amazing. She comes from Rancho Santa Margarita High School. She had very good proficiency rates on her AP exams there, so we're glad to have her on our team this year. And finally, we welcomed a new dance teacher and director, Esty Carrizosa. And Esty comes from Burbank High School. She built that program pretty much from the ground up there, so she's very familiar with dance. The panel was very excited to hire her. She has a lot of energy, good dynamics, and I think the students will really enjoy working with her. And at the district office, we also hired a number of new staff members. We've added some members to our tech team, Robbie Sparakis as a technology systems specialist, and he's out at our sites. In fact, we hardly ever see him at the district office because he's out at the sites supporting our teachers and our staff in the classrooms, making sure that all of their technology is operational. And Roy Brignac is a database administrator. We may not see as much, but he's working behind the scenes to make sure that our systems talk to each other, which is very critical to make sure everything's working correctly at the sites. And then we hired John Brown as an administrative assistant for human resources and public communications. And one of the primary reasons for the addition of that position are the new regulations related to Affordable Care Act. And so that has a lot of reporting requirements, a lot of tracking and systems that need to be done. So that's part of her role, and we'll all be sharing in that as well. And then finally, we also hired a new coordinator of assessment, accountability, and special projects, and that's Amy Kernan, who's here today. We've also hired a new director of facilities, Jeff Dixon, and Jeff will be joining our team on October 13th. He's already come down from the Central Coast a couple times to meet with us and to tour the schools, so we're very excited to have him on board as well. And I know Dean's going to talk in a few minutes about more of our facilities projects. So probably the one that you want to know the most about is where we are in the process of hiring a new Laguna Beach High School principal. And so I recognize several of the faces in here. I know many of you had come to our parent input sessions and provided us with input, and probably several others of you have participated in our survey. So we're in the process of recruiting and beginning those interview processes very shortly. We're still in the input gathering process. As I mentioned, we held 2 parent meetings to solicit input. We met with the staff, and yesterday I met with ASB and PALS to get the student input as well. And we'll be sending the students a survey shortly via email. The next step in that process is now an interview process. We have 3 rounds of interviews scheduled. The first is a 10-minute screening interview so that we can just assess whether or not the candidate is a good fit for the district and meets the minimum standard or qualifications. The next level of interviews are stakeholder panel interviews where we have parents, staff members, office staff, administrators, multi-stakeholders on the panels. We run 2 simultaneous panels of about 45 minutes, and the candidates rotate through each of those panels. So we tend to have around 8 people on each panel. So it's quite an intensive process. And then finally, there's an administrative interview with the superintendent and cabinet to make the final decision and the final selection that would be recommended to the board. So we hope that we find the right match in this round, but please be assured that if we don't, we will go back out. We will not settle. We will find the right person for this position, and I know it's really challenging to replace Dr. C, and we won't find another Dr. C, but we will look for someone who has the skills and qualities that we want, that are a good match for our high school and for our district. And after we recommend a candidate to the board and the candidate is approved by the board, we'll be scheduling a meet and greet so that all the parents and students can come and meet the new principal before they get started. So that's a little bit about what we've been doing in HR. And so I'll let Cheryl introduce you next.
Thank you, Lisa. Dean is our chief business official, our assistant superintendent of business, and he's going to take a few minutes and just fill you in on what's happening with our facilities and the condition of our district from the business side. And then we're saving the best for last. Our instructional team, our education team will have a presentation with an activity that you will be involved in. So just wanted to preface that so you know that the frosting is coming up here.
Which means I'll be very quick and we'll get on to it. Under the business services, we have our physical realm, our nutrition services, our facilities, all of those other duties that come under the non-instructional elements. Some of the things on the fiscal side is to ensure you that we have a strong district, continue to, the audit report coming out, and past audit reports have always been clean audit reports, no audit adjustments. The district takes a firm line and cautious line to making sure that all ongoing expenditures that we have in the district are within the ongoing resources that we have available, and we continually have a strong district. The nutritions, we had a lot of upgrades last year related to meal programs and federal compliance. We have this year, we focus in, the state, the government's focusing in on a la carte items, so those will be more in the secondary schools. So we'll do a lot more improvements, and we have individuals in place for accountability on the improvements that we have. And we've done some rearrangements of those, and so we continue to strive forward in nutrition. Facilities, as you heard, we have our facilities director retired at the end of last year. That means we went through summertime, which is an intense time with projects when kids are out of the classroom, gives us a chance to go in. Our retiring director pre-planned and had a lot of planning for those projects, bids out for roofing and for asphalt. We had a consultant that came in and helped run those projects for us during the summer and did a fabulous job in a lot of asphalt roofing, swelling at the high school, as well as all the other projects that go on, even the Thurston's traffic safety entrance area. A lot of blacktops. Thurston's Blue Top is scheduled for here in October when the kids are away for the 6th grade outdoor science camp. But there's a lot to do. One of the things that we got back was a facilities condition assessment. That kind of gives us a snapshot of where we're at right now, what the facilities look like, and what are the needs. And so, obviously, first and foremost, we're always concerned with safety. So, things like, making sure all the fire, safety items work. Those all have been signed off and certified as we transited those to a new company this year. Every unit was functioning and supported and certified. So those kind of things happen. But on the other side of it, we are looking at classroom quality. So air conditioning units, they're not that exciting, but the quality, especially on hot days, you kind of realize, that's an issue. We're in the coastal community, so some buildings are often built without air conditioning, and those are decided over time with a prioritization. Comes whether you air conditioned building or not. But the ones that we do have, they do eventually expire and they do need to be replaced. So the better well we maintain them, the longer that they use. So building up our staff in a way that those are maintained as well as a quality focus for us. But our facilities condition assessment came back, and we had about $10 million in current needs, and that grows because of expiring systems over time to 12 and 16 million as you go out 3 or 5 years. And so the district, being prudent financial resources, has set up a mechanism. We will be funding, looking at those projects and prioritizing those with the board in October, November, December, hopefully with a plan in January that will look at 1, 3, and 5 and 10 years out. Actionable plans. Those are not the only needs that we have. We have fields that we are doing. One of them, among them, the high school athletic synthetic field will eventually expire probably by summer 2016. We're looking at. Also, we have Thurston's Field and other fields that we're looking at. But there's also program improvement. So as there's different needs, and so as we strategize and plan, we're looking at input on those needs. We'll go through that study session on building those needs for each site and try to work on what needs to be maintained and replaced, and those things that we need to do that are new, and look at that for over, as we look at our next week. So that's a lot will be on the plate, and we'll have a new director in, have a lot of focus in on that, but we continue to do a lot of that work and striving forward. We have some exciting neat things that are happening in the classroom. Mike Morrison talked a little bit more about our 4CLE program, and a lot of the projects we're doing. So I'll leave with that. I'll leave it for the other folks to kind of fill in those.
I want to point out that Jan Whitmer has joined us, so in addition to Teresa and Betsy, so we have 3 of our board members today. Are you ready?
Ready.
Do you need the microphone?
I don't think so.
Do you need the microphone? Okay. Great. I will hand it over to Darlene Messenger.
Good morning. We are trying to do something a little bit different for you this morning to get you a little bit actively engaged, which is exactly what we're trying to do with students in the classroom. And so we're going to give you a snapshot of the many things that we're working on here in the district in terms of curriculum and instruction. We'll start off with, this is our team for instructional services, composed of me, Irene McKay, Mike Morrison, and Amy Cannon, our newest member. This is her 3rd day, and we're going to have her do a little slide for you this morning, so yay, welcome Amy. We are certainly off and running at every single one. And we have the wonderful privilege of working with our principals and our teachers to bring these great activities to the classrooms. So we want to give you a little picture of what that might look like. Before Mike shows this video, it demonstrates an approach to teaching and learning that supports many of those 21st century trends that Shereen was mentioning earlier this morning. And it reflects exactly the kinds of learning experiences that we are trying to create for our students here in Laguna Beach. We know these are research-based practices, and they work to really engage in learning experience.
Next, Taiwan Public School in New England is taking a different approach to teaching, immersing students in an unusually comprehensive science curriculum that emphasizes problem solving.
On a crisp fall morning last October, King Middle School in Portland, Maine, invited 8th graders to what it calls a kickoff, the unveiling of an in-depth project that would be at the center of nearly all the students' courses for the next 4 months.
So I direct your attention to this slide. This is called Earth at Night.
Science teacher Peter Hill set the stage.
There are certain parts of the world that use a ton of energy. Along with it, 25% of the world's population doesn't have electricity in there. But enough solar energy hits the Earth every hour to supply the entire world's energy needs for a year. So we need to design tools that can capture all that sunlight that's hitting our Earth, or capture all that wind power that's sitting out in the Gulf of Maine. We need to, wait for it, revolt.
Hill handed the students an ambitious assignment to fulfill by the end of the project.
You're going to create a device that captures natural energy and transforms it into something that's useful for people in some part of the world.
I was like, I can't do that.
Taking all this in was Leva Pierce.
That's way too much. I don't know the first thing about electricity. I don't know the first thing about windmills. I am totally gonna
So
fail.
what do you think about the big picture here?
Projects that take students into uncharted territory are at the heart of teaching and learning at King. Though it's a regular public school, this approach, called expeditionary learning, is unusual, but could be just the kind of education students need in a rapidly changing world, learning the science and social issues that would be at the heart of their invention. math teachers chose to take students there, an 8-week-long interdisciplinary study of wind power. Science teacher Peter Hill.
We started with a wind turbine. How do these things create electricity? And we took apart a motor, and we said, well, there's magnets and wires in there. How do magnets and wires interact to generate electricity?
To make the learning go deeper, in tech ed class, students built working model wind turbines.
The criteria for this project is a wind turbine that is stable and sturdy. It has to generate at least 1 volt of electricity. And the other piece is we want it to be creative, outrageous, ingenious, and inspirational.
The politics of wind power was the subject in social studies. Emma Schwartz.
The point is to find a place where it would be good or possible to have a wind turbine. See what the environmental impacts might be if there's a bunch of huge turbines in the area.
You get those discussions around what is the sense of place and what is scenic beauty and how do you alleviate that issue. Let's see where you are.
Next, Mark Jervis's students will argue for their turbine in a persuasive essay addressed to local officials. But for their life-improving invention, students would need to know about faraway places. In English class, they read The Boy Who Harnessed the Wind, the autobiography of William Kamkwamba of Malawi, Africa.
He managed to build a big wind turbine, power his house, and he did it all with a book and some trash.
They went through this awful famine, and that was really shocking to me that he can go through that and still have hope.
I think that was a really big theme in the book. If you really just try and you don't really stop, no matter what's in your way, you'll eventually get there.
Inspired by the book, students like Leva Pierce pushed ahead with their own model wind turbines.
I had a lot of struggles with my turbine. And I said, you know what? I'm going to make this generate more than a volt. So I made a whole new set of blades. That worked a lot better. But then I heard about other people that were getting oh, I heard you got 6 volts. And I was like, oh, gotta get more than that.
By February, students had reached the final stage of the project, creating an energy-generating device that improves people's lives. The assignment was to create a technical drawing. Emma Schwartz designed a light.
I call it the Rub-A-Dub Scrub. It's a sponge that generates light, which you might think, oh my god, everyone's gonna get electrocuted, but no, I'm gonna make sure no one gets electrocuted. As you can see, there's a little dome with lights at the top. There's scrubbers on the bottom. The scrubbers are attached to magnets which spin around wires. When you rotate it on dishes, the scrubbers rotate. That creates the electrons to flow, and that generates electricity.
Leva Pierce created a crank flashlight.
It will have UVB, UVC, and a regular light. UVC kills bacteria in water.
Her UVB light is supposed to draw insects away from people.
And it will have off, regular, water, bugs, and I'm calling it the Eco Bright.
For the final event of the project, parents were invited in to hear all about the students' inventions.
The Rub-A-Dub Scrub takes the usually wasted rotational kinetic energy. This is live, showing what you're learning to other people, which kind of gives you something more back, I think.
And you have to be clear and concise. Giving presentations is so important because it really arms you with skills that you'll need later in life. Before this expedition, I kind of always thought of myself as I'm good at writing and I'm good at reading, and that's what I'm good at. This expedition has completely changed my idea of science. The science is doing and science is building and science is creating.
What makes this school a success?
But I feel that schools shouldn't just be about learning about problems. I think they should be about solving them. Because if you aren't learning about how to solve problems, then what will you do when you're out of school?